So let's explain. So I've given you now this bookmark, right?
Yes.
It is for section 2 of your book.
Yes.
Please remember that you need to put the whys. If you ask a question, if you tell me a thought, if you have a prediction, you tell me why you think that, why you predict that, why you are wondering about that, or what makes you wonder. If you guess at a word, you have to guess what you think it means. You can't just say, I don't know what this word means. Tell me what you think it means and why you think that. Even if it's wrong, that's okay. You can still get your points for making educated guesses. So, this is due when? Tuesday. Please stick it in your book and put your book to the side. The next thing I need for you to do is open up your homework that is your Google Doc. So this is the homework that's due today, and it should be in the Google Doc that is already shared with me. So you should be on a Google Doc right now.
How much
Okay, the first step, raise your hand if above your writing, wherever you started your project, you wrote which type of out-of-the-box thinking it was. Okay, if you did that, you can ignore me for the next minute. If you didn't, you need to go into Notability, look at all those lists of things, figure out which one you did, read it, and type that title, or what it is, above your project. Otherwise, I have no idea what I'm grading. There are 30 projects on there. I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay? So, you should be typing that in right now. I'm going to give you guys about 45 seconds to do that if you haven't already. The next step. Raise your hand if you use the red technique. The quotes. Keep your hand up if your quote has the page number next to it. It should. Okay? If it doesn't have the page number right now, you need to go looking for that. If you need to borrow a book from me, then you need to borrow a book from me. Make sure that you have the page number in parentheses after it. Okay, let's do this one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have used the blue technique in your writing, raise your hand. Woo! Okay, keep your hand up if you put in the themes in parentheses at each time. If you did not do that, you need to go label that right now in your writing. Okay, your next piece. Raise your hand if you use the orange technique. Keep your hand up if after the orange technique you put in parentheses which 2 pieces of story elements you were talking about.
Setting affects character.
Okay, that's what you need to write in parentheses. Setting affects character. Or character affects...
Dialogue affects... No, character affects character.
No, because it says 2 different. It says 2 different types. So you need to write that in. By the way, if you used orange and one of your story elements was theme, raise your hand. You would need to tell me which theme you were talking about in that part. So setting affects the theme of ignorance is bliss.
But you mean in parentheses like
After the sentence or something. At the end of that sentence.
But if you have only one.
Or at the end of that chunk.
If you have only one.
How does
These like down here. Are these 2 oranges? Give me a second. Let me turn this video off. So we're going to be looking back at this document now that has all of our color techniques on it. And we've already discussed these. We actually are going to go down to technique number 6 right now.
Purple is the new black.
Purple, that's right. Okay. So, I'm going to have you guys looking at this now. Let me get all white parts on the page. Okay. So this one's a little bit more detailed. That's why it has its own page. So we're going to write some things on this. You need to have a purple marker in your Notability out, please. I don't have one, but you can.
That's very pretty.
So a purple marker out. All right. So this one's going to be talking about how something develops throughout the novel or how it changes throughout the novel. Question?
Wouldn't that be like a summary?
It's not just a summary because you're not going to necessarily be mentioning all the things that happened. You're going to be focusing on a character's development or one major event, what caused it before and what it changed into, or a theme. So it's a little bit more developed than that. Okay? Well, I'm going to have us brainstorm some ideas first. So, I'm gonna work with the giver up here, and you guys are gonna work with your book there. So I'm gonna ask you to think of the book that you have already read and taken the quiz on, and I'm gonna have you list 2 major characters. Work with your table. You have 15 seconds. List the 2 most major characters you have. Okay, write them in purple.
Kira and Mel.
Shut up.
More like Claire's died.
But she, I would say maybe mom probably.
The dad and mom.
Okay, finish that quickly. Okay, the next part says list 2 major events. It doesn't matter what they are, but I'm going to pick big events in the giver, like the giving of the first memory, or the giving of various memories that it changed into. And I'm also going to pick Jonas getting his job. Okay, you choose the 2 most major or 2 pivotal events for your novel right now with your
When
groups.
Kira's mom dies. No, mom.
All right, last step.
Wait a second. There we go.
Okay, I'm going to pick 2 major themes from the book. For the giver, I'm going to pick
Ignorance is bliss.
and you guys might have some similar ones. Ignorance is bliss, and I'm going to pick isolation. Your job at your table right now is to pick 2 major themes with your group and write it for your novel.
Jealousy.
All right, so let's look at the next step now. You do not have to use all of these. This is meant as a brainstorming. So I'm going to show you with the giver how it might look if you used a character and talked about development, if you looked at an event and talked about a development, if you looked at major theme and talked about a development. But you're only going to have to pick one. Please take your iPads and flip them upside down right now. Okay, this is time for us to focus and watch. Our iPads should be flipped upside down. Okay. So let's look at this. You guys have all read this, so you all know. That's why I'm going to use it for an example. If I choose Jonas, we're going to talk about how he evolved or grew or changed through the novel. So think about Jonas in the beginning. What kind of person was he, or how are his emotions? What feelings do we know about him?
He followed the rules before knowing the
Yeah.
feelings.
He was a rule follower.
He was blissfully ignorant.
He was ignorant but content, right? Ignorant but content. Okay?
He wasn't careful with the words.
He was careful.
He never lied.
Yeah, didn't lie. So let's stop right there for a second.
He was
That's
innocent.
good for right there.
What the community expected of
Yeah, he did what he was expected. He followed those rules and didn't think twice about it. Okay, as we go through the middle of the book, how does he change? What kind of person does he become? Or
He's the
what-
opposite.
A rebel.
he starts to become more curious,
Independent.
more independent,
He's like doubting.
A liar.
he
He's
becomes
starting to know more about
doubtful, or he starts to doubt. He also starts to become more knowledgeable. I'm getting there. More knowledgeable.
He knows more about things.
I hear some words that are rebellion. I'm gonna put it over here
Yeah.
because it's a little further this way, right? He starts to rebel. And how does he start to feel once he starts to rebel?
Disobeyed.
Better.
Disobeys.
He likes it.
He feels disgraced that he has been lied to.
Not disgraced. I think you're right. He feels angry that he's been lied to. I think he feels anger, not just about the lying, but about what else? About what they do,
How they release.
about what the release is.
And he don't know what to do because no one have like feelings. And
Exactly.
He's the only one that.
He starts to be confused here, right? He starts to be doubtful, and then that leads to confusion. And then what about in the end? What does he start feeling?
He did.
He feels.
No, he feels
the need
com-
to escape. Like he feels.
Fed up. Fed up, but he also feels a sense of freedom because he ends up leaving, right? He also starts to feel emotions that are positive. Okay? What else?
he now he has confidence.
He also starts to have confidence
And love.
and love, and I heard empathy because he understands for other people. So I want you guys to think about this. This is our evolution of Jonas. And it does say draw a line representing its evolution. If we draw a line representing kind of Jonas's evolution, I think maybe he would start, I'm going to do it up here because I'm running out here. He starts kind of like flat, right?
Yeah, and then
Oh, I'm curious. I'm independent. Oh, doubtful. Oh, knowledge. Oh, anger. Oh, rebellion. Oh, discomfort. Okay, comes back up here. So look at how he changes throughout the novel. I did not write events.
But he doesn't end the same as though he started. Definitely.
Where do you think he ends?
Higher.
Happier.
Okay. Maybe more discomfort, but more happiness and
No.
choice, right?
It feels like he's like
Satisfaction.
himself for the first time.
Right.
I think he ends the same way, but like.
But in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah,
See,
he
maybe
has
not
more
different.
discomfort physically because he's hungry, because he's frustrated, but he has choices.
And
He
he
started
accomplished
happy
what he
Yep.
wanted.
Because
So
he didn't know, but
like,
now
basically,
he knows.
Right, it's changing.
listen.
So let's pause for a second. Notice that I did not write events. I wrote emotions. I wrote the kind of person he was,
Those characteristics.
characteristics, and feelings. So I'm going to have you guys write somewhere over here, characteristics, traits, feelings. So you don't forget, because it is not a timeline of events. I did not say Jonas first is getting ready for his ceremony. Jonas next is, okay?
I'm starving.
So let's pause for a second. That is how you might do evolution of a character.
Yeah, I'm very hungry.
Oh, really?
I'm starving.
Characteristics, traits, feelings.
Stomach is growling.
Characteristics, traits, feelings. Next. Flip your iPad back over now that you've written that little note in there, because we don't need it again for the next couple minutes. This one is, there's two major events. Giving memory or getting his job. Which one do we choose? Doesn't matter.
Getting memory.
Raise your hand if you want to do getting memory.
No, receiving memory better.
Well, receiving memory. Raise your hand if you want to do getting his job. Okay, looks like we're doing this one.
No, but no.
Okay.
Receiving memory got more like.
I don't think so. I'm looking good. All right, so let's do Jonas getting his job. In the beginning of the book, how does he feel about this ceremony of 12 and getting his job?
Nervous.
Nervous.
Anxious.
He feels a little bit nervous.
But when they don't call him,
He feels anxious.
I'm
Scared.
uncomfortable.
He feels discomfort
Yes.
or uncomfortable.
But when they
Is
don't
he excited about the ceremony?
No.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. Then as it gets closer, he starts to feel excited
He feels scared and they don't.
about ceremony. But then when he gets there at the ceremony, what
They
happens?
don't pick him.
They don't call him and he feel like confused why.
Then he feels confused.
Scared.
Overseeing.
Yeah, he starts to freak out. I might say
Different.
Oh my god. Scared.
nervous again,
Frustration.
scared, frustrated.
OMG.
When he gets his job and starts training, and he's like, rainbow, sun, sled. How does he feel?
Better.
Enthusiastic.
Entertained.
Enthusiastic,
Positive.
positive,
Wanting to teach
excited. I heard entertained, but I'm going to say excited.
He wants to teach others.
He wants to teach others.
Knowledgeable. Wise.
Knowledgeable and wants to share. Let's say knowledgeable and wants to share. When he gets some of the bad memories because of this job, it leads to what?
Sadness.
It leads to him starting to feel
Depression.
sad and depressed, right? Imagine the war, right? It also, remember the game of the war?
Yeah.
He saw that, he felt horrible, he saw the killing of the animals. Then, how did he feel after his friends were playing the war game?
Sad.
Sad, but
He knew what was happening.
lonely. Why did he
And
feel
what-
lonely?
And also when his dad killed the baby.
Hold on. He's the only person, and he's the only person who knows about the baby situation.
Yes, and like the rest didn't know that they got killed. Like he felt anger towards his dad because
Yes.
He knew what was happening though. His dad
His
didn't.
job allowed him to see more, and he started to feel anger. Okay?
And like has fears, cause like
Right.
he wanted to escape. And
Desire to escape. Desire to escape. Fed up. So think about how you might draw this one. Excited. Oh, confused. Oh, I'm down again. How would your line representing the development look? Because it's not going to be this all the way through straight. So this is how you might do it if you had chosen the evolution of an event. What was his emotion entering that event? And how did that event change who he was or his emotion?
So you have to choose anyway one character that you will be describing the feelings of. Like if you chose giver.
It could be if you're doing this event could revolve around multiple characters if they were all involved in one. Like, how did they act before the event?
So
What did the event do? Did anything change in their relationship afterwards?
it's like the events on the
Yeah, it could. And the book. Okay. So let's look at the next one. Ignorance is bliss or isolation. Raise your hand if you want to do ignorance is bliss. Isolation?
I need isolation.
It's much more ignorance is bliss.
Okay, let's do ignorance is bliss. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like for events.
I'm sorry, I can't hear because everyone seems to be chatting amongst themselves. I'm gonna wait until we're ready. Try again, I think we're ready.
Like for the two major events.
Uh-huh.
I mean for two major characteristics, traits, and
Character.
and later for the two major events, is there anything else apart from events, like feelings and
What do you mean? I'm confused.
like that? Remember the time rewards we put in there?
Oh, no.
No, only events.
I mean, this is kind of like what it turned into. If you want to think about it, if you want me to give you some, I would say focus on what caused or what the causes and effects were. What the causes and effects were. What caused that event, or how did they feel revolving around that event, and how did that affect the characters, or how did that affect the story. Okay? Is that helpful for you to have those little clue words?
Yes.
Okay, so causes and effects. All right, so ignorance is bliss. How was this theme in the beginning? What did we know about ignorance is bliss in the beginning of this story, of the giver?
That everybody was happy without knowledge.
Society, and including Jonas, right?
Because they were
happy, but they were
with what
just
they had.
I think maybe they were
satisfied.
content or satisfied.
Like everybody.
Something just happened to my computer.
Java.
Remind me later.
Java.
Okay, there we go. This word is a little confusing for me in Spanish, I think, because
Contento.
people use contenta, well for me contenta, to be like, oh, I'm okay, yeah.
But it's like,
But I
okay.
think content in English is a little bit less than like
No, like when you say
contenta.
think of this, it's like when you're happy.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm not bad. But
yeah, they're just like
So.
flat.
Yeah.
I think it's more like so-so. Yeah, okay.
Like they felt like plain maybe because like they.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
think
didn't have
so-so. Content is just like,
I'm good and bad.
how are you? Are you good?
Satisfied.
No. Are you bad? No.
Okay.
He's satisfied.
Satisfied. Content or satisfied. Okay, so let's do content or satisfied. Thanks, I heard a couple people say it. So then, what about ignorance is bliss for the society? Does the society change their level of understanding?
No.
They maintain the same, so the only people we have to measure it against are Jonas and maybe the giver who already knows. So
No,
what
and-
happens
and
with Jonas
Gabe-
is,
and like Gabe is happy like when Jonas puts the memories to Gabe, Gabe starts like feeling happy and.
okay, so let's add that one down here in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's go with Jonas.
Jonas started feeling first happiness because, but also anger because they were like prohibiting these things to them.
First happy,
But they was like we don't have this.
and then angry and frustrated. When he got what? We got to connect it back to ignorance is bliss. When he got what?
The
Memories.
memories.
The memories.
What do we call that? Ignorance is bliss. What does he have now? Doesn't have ignorance anymore.
No.
Okay, happiness, but he feels angry and frustrated due to more knowledge or becoming less ignorant. Okay? Then, what about Gabe?
When like Gabe stopped crying when Jonas gave memories because like I
Like that.
happy.
So the idea is that first when you get, what are we noticing? The first bits of knowledge are often what?
Like happiness.
But as you gain more knowledge,
No, as you gain like stronger knowledge maybe.
in this society, because they're so limited, there's this sense of confusion or doubt that comes after the initial happiness, right?
Yeah. They're like, why did they take this away from me? Why?
Yeah.
Did they do this?
And think about how even Jonas felt overwhelmed, like all of this stuff at once. Okay? But what did the ignorance is bliss turn out as in the end?
It turned out like the people still got the memories back.
Put up with this.
He couldn't put up with this, he wanted to escape, but it also led him to
Freedom.
freedom from his, or due to his knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of the evolution or the development of that theme. First it starts this way, and then when you first get it, you're like happy with this, but then you realize there's so much to know, you feel betrayed, you feel angry and frustrated, and then it eventually led to his freedom, okay? So when you do this with your books, right now, I am not going to ask you to do all three. I'm going to ask you to choose one category and pick one of yours like we did. So we picked one in each category, pick Jonas in this one, pick this one, this one, this one. All you have to do is pick one and do it. Raise your hand if you think right now, just the first thought in your head, you'd like to work with characters. Raise your hand if you think your first thought is that you'd like to work with an event. Raise your hand if your first thought is that you'd like to work with a theme. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you choose. It is probably easier for you right now if you work in partners at your tables
Pareja.
and choose the same. Yes, partners at your table.
Eric, push-ups.
We'll do push-ups in a second. Partners. I had to do push-ups this morning.
Really?
Yes.
What did you say?
No. It's true. I said, instead of saying no, I was like, no. I said, that's the same word, you still have to do it, so I gave it. So you have to choose one.
No?
I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to do this. Remember, we are not plotting events.
Life?
We are plotting character traits or characteristics or feelings, or maybe even the causes and the effects.
And where do we learn this?
Somewhere over here. You can do it at the top if you need to and draw an arrow. Okay, so
Explain below.
it's okay. You're going to use this part of what you said. So I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to do this. I'm going to come around and help you. We might need a little bit longer. Your job is to start that with your partner right now. The next step we need to do is the bottom question. It says, why does it evolve, or what makes it? What causes it to evolve? What is the effect on the story or event? This is what I want you to do in your own words in a couple of sentences. So change your text to purple. And think about what you chose, whether it was a character, or whether it was an event, or whether it was a theme. The question is, why does it evolve? What makes it do so? And what effect does that have on the story, or the character, or that event? So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to do this. You need to do this silently, and you need to do it in your purple, so that it's ready.
Okay.
You might just be finishing, and that's okay. I'm going to ask you to pause for a second and flip your iPad over. Pause with where you were ready. So this technique, this purple technique of number 6, it takes a little bit to plan, but think it really only took you guys about 5 or 6 minutes to make your plan. But do you have a lot to say then?
No.
Well,
Of course, yes.
If you talk about the beginning, and then you talk about the middle, and then you talk about the end, do you have at least maybe 2 paragraphs to write?
Yeah.
Because you have the changes in the development. So the one thing about this is it takes a couple minutes to plan this out. And you don't have to write a lot. But do you have a lot to say later after you planned it? Yes. And that's one of the reasons that I like this is because it gives students a lot to be able to discuss. Okay, so this is a technique that gives you a lot of things to talk about. And if you're thinking, I don't really have a lot to say, this is one that helps you get all those things out to say. Okay? So if you're looking for ways to develop your next book note, your next out-of-the-box writing.
Oh, very
That's it. Let's look at number 7, please.
Oh,
Scroll to number 7. Yes, you have seen this in other grades before.
But Miss,
Yes.
that's like too many.
Ah,
Okay,
yes.
so let's get going then. So here's what I want to talk about today and start.
Hey, Theory.
Why do I do this? If you're listening, clap once. What is my purpose or my goal in doing that?
Everybody pays attention at class.
Everybody
And
pays
you
attention.
get the others, because if we clap, there are others who can,
Right. So
like, influence.
for a teacher, there are certain techniques, teacher techniques, that I use that have a goal. Okay, I use, if you're listening, clap once. If you're listening, say this. So that I have the goal of getting you guys to pay attention and getting others to recognize quickly. Okay? It's the same thing for writing, and you guys have probably seen this last year. This is the 7th grade version of this. There are certain techniques that a writer uses, but it's your job to figure out, okay, what was their goal in using that? If they use dialogue for something, your job is to look at that dialogue and go, okay, what is that dialogue supposed to show me? Was it supposed to show me the setting? Ah, because they're talking, he said, oh, look at that tree over there. And then the next person said, I know, it's totally falling down. And the next person says, I know, and so are all the houses around here. Then you know something about the setting. Okay? Or maybe it's not dialogue to talk about the setting. Maybe in the dialogue, they're talking about how bad they feel for something they did, to stir empathy or to show empathy. So your job is to think about, all right, what techniques do I see? And what was the purpose that they used in doing that? And that gives you something to write about. So I'd like for you guys to first off, think of something just to practice right now that you've seen in your book a lot. Maybe it's dialogue. Maybe you noticed a flashback or flash forward. Maybe you noticed quite a bit of inner thinking. Maybe you noticed some revealing actions. Choose one of those easy ones in the beginning right now for our practice so that we can make an example of it that you've noticed a lot. And I want you guys right now to not choose the book you had already taken the test on. I want you to choose the book that you're currently reading because you're going to have to look at it. So think about the book that you're currently reading. What techniques, some of these first few, do you notice that the author has done? And circle one right now with your groups, please.
My
Is that how it works?
Okay, I'll talk about it in 1 second. Let me come look at it. Okay. So your job right now is you have already found something. Guthi, what did you choose?
Flashback and flash forward.
Flashback and flash forward. What about you, Nathan?
First person narrative.
Say it again.
First
First-person narrative. Inner thinking, okay? So your job is now to go in your book and look for a specific part where that was used. As you're looking at it, put a little page number on there so you don't forget in case the bell rings. We can go back to it tomorrow. Put a page number where you see a strong example of that technique. Then try to go over here and circle why you think they used that technique. What was it supposed to be showing? Maybe your dialogue was showing the character's motivation. Okay? Find a place that's strong in the book where they use that technique. Then you're going to go in and look and see what goal you think they were accomplishing or trying to accomplish with that. Do that with your groups, and I'll be around.